Hello and welcome to Taskmaster Talks with Kevin Sullivan. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me, of course, the star of the show, former WCW and ECW World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest minds and bookers ever in the history of the business, the Games Master, the Taskmaster, the Devil himself, Mr. Kevin Sullivan. Kevin, how you doing today, sir?
Everything's great, JP. How are you, my friend?
Very good, very good. Now, I'm not sure what's going on as far as the people in WWE are concerned and how they're doing, but what did you think about the return of Vince McMahon? Vince is back.
Well, could anybody going to get the money he's going to get on that sale?
I don't know. It's tough to say. Probably not.
I don't think it's tough to say. Do does anybody but him remember when he was selling meatball sandwiches at the Cape Coliseum, which he bought? When he was running towns with the Grand Wizard in Maine, and then turned it into this animal. I mean, his journey has been really, uh, you want to say American dream? It has been an American dream. I mean, he didn't really know his father until he was 16, right?
Yep.
Then he went and was he had the Cape Cod Coliseum. Didn't he have a hockey team there too one time?
Or was it the Hartford team? But I know he did it. He
No,
was.
he had he had the Cape Cod Coliseum, and I think he had a hockey team there.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was way early when he was still working for the father, and they were him and his Linda were making meatball sandwiches and selling them at the games.
Wow.
So I mean, it's been a real long, strange trip he's been on. Could anybody realize, unless you travel that road, where he came from and did this?
Yeah. And he's, I guess, the only guy that could be able to sell for as much money as he's going to sell for. Right now would be 6.6 billion is what's being said.
Think about that. Think about that. I mean,
Insane.
what's the price tag on the Washington Commanders and the Boston Red Sox? They're not even that, I don't think.
No, lower. Yeah. I was just
But
looking at it that long ago. And it's funny. I was looking at certain things. I think the Cowboys would be worth a little bit more. And I think the Yankees would be worth a little bit more. But then it was WWE after that. And even way more than UFC because UFC was 4 billion.
yeah, way more. And think about this. He's done this all since 1983.
Just about. Yeah.
The Red Sox came into existence in 1901, correct?
Yep.
I mean, people can knock them, they can say whatever they want to say about them, but I don't think wrestling would be where it is today if it wasn't for him. Now, did he make mistakes along the way? Probably. Did he do things that wrestling fans might not have liked? Probably. But think about this. When I got in the business, people were fighting for their lives to protect the business. Now I'm on a show explaining it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So, and this is what was supposed to kill the business if you talked about it. It seems to do. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the number one box office attraction in entertainment the former wrestler?
Yes.
Is Batista getting close?
He's moving up the ranks for sure. Yeah.
Huge, critically acclaimed movie. The one they just did, The Glass Onion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Out of all those people in there, they had all kinds of stars. Did you see it?
No, but I was reading about it. And they were saying Batista stole the show.
You stole the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely stole it. There's no more bartering for TV time or even paying for TV time. Correct?
Yeah, it's all about those TV rights deals. He's getting them to pony up all that billions of dollars to put him on TV.
I think I know, he's pissed a lot of people off at a lot of different times. He's pissed people off. And we might not have liked how he got there. But you can't say this has not been the biggest success in all of entertainment, sports entertainment of all times. You cannot. Nobody's come this far this quick. Do you think, JP?
Not a chance. Not with the amount of money that he's worth and that he has now. Yeah, no way.
So, the old saying, the ends justify the means?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so.
It's crazy to think that he would even sell, though, right? Isn't it crazy that he came back? He brought Barrios and Wilson. He's back as the chairman, executive chairman of the board, and he's talking about sale. Is it crazy that he wants to sell?
Maybe. Okay. Think about this. I think in terms a little bit different, I think, than other people. Do you think 40 years ago, 30 years ago, the son of the King of England would be putting a tell-all book out?
No. Yeah, you wouldn't think so.
Is that what they're doing now?
Right, yeah.
Maybe he sees that only he could have done what he did, and he sees that, I'm just surmising this, that maybe nobody else wants to spend 20 hours a day working 7 days a week, 365 days a year, but him. And before it goes down, it's time to sell.
And I was reading that his kids didn't want to sell. They were opposed to the deal. Stephanie and Triple H. Obviously, Stephanie quit, but before she quit, she was opposed to some sort of sale, meaning that I guess they wanted to be the heirs to the throne. And it seems like unless he's pulling some sort of power play where he's just saying he wants to put it up for sale to get the stock price up, which if he did do that, it worked. But that's allegedly saying that, of course. But I wonder if he would really sell, or if maybe sell to Saudi Arabia and then maintain control of the company, just like kind of Dana White did with UFC when they sold.
Different animal, I believe. Dana White made money, but he wasn't a billionaire.
Right, definitely.
Vince is a billionaire. Is he going to sell it to somebody else and then hang around? I don't think so.
Really? Because that was the big rumor was Saudi Arabia would buy it, but he would be in charge of it
No,
and be given full control. Interesting.
no, I don't think so, because here's the thing. You sell your business, they tell you you're in charge, someone's that paid for it is going to eventually say, hey, I want to try this.
And Vince is having none of that, I would think.
I mean, you don't think someone's going to want to try it?
Yep. Yeah. And if you think about it too, unless they were going to go private, would be the only way for Vince to do that, because then he wouldn't have to face these lawsuits and public scrutiny, and him giving payments or whatever wouldn't matter because it's private. It'd be his company.
Well, do you think he's escaped all that?
I don't know. It seems like for now, for a little bit. I mean, he was gone for 6 months. Now he's back. I don't know if he's fully escaped it. There's new lawsuits coming out recently saying that he positioned himself back and fired all the board members. So I'm not sure how far that'll go.
JP, when we had all the banks fail, right? During 2008, when the whole uh, housing fell apart,
Yep.
did anybody ever go to jail?
I
That
don't know.
Nobody.
Oh, nobody. Okay.
That were writing these mortgages where they knew they were bullshit. When the banks failed, what do we do?
Bailed them out.
And those guys were still getting their bonuses. Now, if he skated that and he's back in power, I don't think anything's going to happen to him. And isn't it under like he has 90 days to sell this?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I thought I read he had 90 days to sell this.
I'm not sure. I didn't read that anywhere. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Could be, but I'm not actually sure.
Well, okay, maybe I envisioned it, but how long can he bang that sign out for sale before he has to take it down?
Right, right. Because then it would be almost like he just said that to gain power, and like that's got to be some sort of legality to that. Yeah.
But now he's back in power, right?
Oh yeah, he's executive chairman again. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he has to appease nobody, right?
Yep.
I think he'll sell.
To who? Who do you think?
It could be anybody. It could be Amazon. It could be Fox. It could be Saudi. It could be Showtime, Disney. It could be a host of people. The figure is astronomical to me. Third behind any sports franchise. Think about that.
Nuts. Yeah. Yep. Pretty crazy if you think about it. 6.6 billion is supposedly the asking price, or would it be going for? Then they're hiring the Rain Company, and they're hiring J.P. Morgan to kind of help them facilitate the sale. Nick Khan is meeting with Disney and Comcast, or NBC, if you will. I mean, they're meeting with some pretty high people. And then I heard recently, which I don't believe for 2 seconds, but that the Khans would be involved. Tony Khan and his dad Shad are interested, because they're worth billions. That they'd be interested in buying the company. I don't see that in a million years, but that was thrown out there as well. I saw that on CNBC, whatever it's called, one of those NBC channels.
Wow. That would certainly change things, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
What would they do? They'd have to merge AEW and WWE together if they did that.
Well, I look. Here's the crazy thing. If the Saudis got it, I think you'd see a huge shift to running shows in the Middle East and the Far East.
Really?
What? I mean, that's where their strength is, right? I mean, don't you operate from a point of strength?
Usually, yeah.
Well, I don't see too many people sitting at tables with burkas on.
They do own a lot of things, the Saudis, as far as America is concerned. Like, as far as the
En-
public investment firm, they do own a lot of things here in America. I know
entertainment, entertainment.
a lot of video games and stuff. Yeah, I know they're a part of Uber as well, but there's Live Golf they own. I mean, they own a bunch of things here too.
Okay, but aren't they kind of using them as prestige in Saudi Arabia,
Yes, they're bringing a lot of the West out there for.
knocking tradition down, bringing the West there?
Yeah, a lot of concerts are there. Yeah, a lot of stuff, games and stuff. Yeah,
John, it was only 10 years ago where there was no tourism there. Think about that. People couldn't
crazy.
go in there. You couldn't go to Saudi Arabia.
And now Vince has got some $1 billion deal with him. It's nuts.
Yeah,
Which may have just been only the beginning of his dealings with them. Who knows?
right, right. It's pretty amazing.
When you look at Stephanie quitting, why do you think that she just quit? And she was going to take a leave of absence, but now she just quit.
Is she quit now?
Yeah, she resigned completely from the company. Yep.
How long ago was that?
About a week ago.
Wow, I must have misread it. I thought it was when she quit before, stepped down. I don't understand it.
Now, they're said that she still owns a ton of stock in the company, but she'd resigned. She's no longer works for them. So if it did sell, obviously she would make a boatload. And I just read recently Shane McMahon is still being paid by them, so he's
He
still kind of hanging around.
he worked one time last year. Did you see the article?
$828,000. Yes,
That may
imagine
that
imagine that.
that may come back and bite them.
Why do you think that? Why do you say that?
How do you justify? You remember all this stuff I always tell you about the North Tower?
Yep.
You're at a stockholders meeting. How do you justify that?
Yeah, that's nuts. He worked a Royal Rumble match for $800,000. It's pretty crazy.
I know they can get away with it, but the justification is a different thing.
I guess you could say almost like, hey, if we let him go, he could go work for the competition, and we don't want a McMahon working for the competition. I guess they could say that, no?
No, they can. They can say anything they want. They can say that they have three heads. It doesn't matter. You got to justify stuff. I mean, come on. You become Pinocchio. Your nose starts growing.
Right, right.
You know. Okay, what did he do in that match? Didn't he want to? There was always that rumor that he wanted to do his finish, and he didn't get to do it. Right?
Yeah, it was something with Brock Lesnar and Bad Bunny. It was something, and he made it to the final four too. So, I mean, he made it pretty deep into the Rumble. I think he was only maybe the 28th or 27th entrance, but he made it pretty far into the Rumble, like as far as towards the end.
Yeah. So again, how do you justify stuff?
To me, it's crazy. I don't know how you can. And again, obviously, him leaving is kind of like a red flag of him not being around. Now, Stephanie quits. She's not around. That, I mean, red flags are raising up like crazy. What the hell's going on over there?
I have no idea on this one, unless she feels that it's sold.
See, a lot of people were saying that the Saudi Arabia, whatever Saudi Arabians, that they wouldn't want a woman in power, and with her as co-CEO, that doesn't fit. So then she quit. I don't know if that actually makes sense either, but I saw that rumor out there that has something to do with prospective sales to Saudi Arabia.
It absolutely does make absolute sense. They're not going to have a woman in power, but I don't. The sale hasn't been done yet. You know what I
No.
mean?
Nope.
But maybe she has an inside track. They're not going to let a woman at a board meeting in Saudi Arabia. That's for sure.
With that too, it's almost like okay, but it's Vince's daughter. I guess they don't care necessarily whose
They
daughter.
don't care. It's a woman. second-class citizen. Think about that. I mean, was it this year they allowed them to drive?
Yes, and then obviously they wrestled on some of the WWE shows, but they had to be fully clothed, whatever,
Right,
no skin
right,
showing. Yeah,
right. So they're not going to go to a meeting and listen in Jeddah and listen to a woman give a speech. So maybe she feels something.
and I guess she opposed the sale, and Vince is like, "Well, I'm going forward with a sale." So they were maybe butting heads on that for sure.
Wow, crazy.
And what do you think about Triple H? Would he last? Like, let's just say Vince stays in power here. Like, will Triple H last?
The unbelievable job he's done, he should. It'd be a shame if he didn't. I mean, you can almost feel in the air a different vibe from them, can't you?
Yeah, it's almost like the rationale or whatever you want to call it, the backstage, the morale has gotten up with Triple H. I know they not necessarily ratings or anything, but it just seems like all the people have such high regard for him. All the guys backstage seem to like him a lot. Vince almost seems like, oh, he's like the mean boss or whatever. Triple H seems like he's the cool boss, or maybe the players coach, if you will. He seems like that kind of guy.
No, no.
No?
You ever watch detective shows?
Good cop, bad cop.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly.
Vince gets to play the bad cop and Triple H has to play the good cop, or whatever, vice versa. You want to say Vince has to play the bad cop, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not a stretch for Hunter to play the good cop because he's a good person, I believe. But you can't have two guys, and it's not actually playing it. Hunter understands the mentality for the wrestlers a lot closer than Vince does. Even though Vince has suffered and clawed his way up, he wasn't a wrestler per se. Where Hunter can understand their plight and their story.
And with Triple H, I feel like let's say they sold, they're going to need a wrestling person to run it because wrestling is so much different than any other entertainment entity you just buy and oh, well, let's put out content. It's so much different. You need
Oh,
Triple H or a wrestling person in charge.
oh, you really think so, huh?
I think so. Yes, AOL
You
Time Warner
really
does, but
think
yeah,
so, right?
right.
Okay, go through that office. How many people even know been into it in a dressing room and listened to a finish?
Right, not many, I would imagine. But don't you think that the people in charge need to be?
When people that aren't in the wrestling business get into control, how hard can this be? It's fake. It's wrestling. How hard can it be? They don't understand. I mean, how many times have you heard about companies starting and supposedly they have money, they're supposed to get a TV, and nothing happens? Because it's very difficult. It's like to me, and maybe it's like trying to be a batting coach when the only thing you saw like baseball is uh, what's the game they play in England and the European English countries?
Cricket?
Cricket. If you've never seen wrestling, and that's what's so difficult about it. I think if they lose Hunter, I think Hunter becomes the most valuable piece of property they have. If somebody gets involved that doesn't I'll give you a perfect example. WCW, when they put Jim Herd in charge, right?
Yep.
Because he was a manager of a program in St. Louis that had wrestling on it. He should know what to do. You want to make Ric Flair Spartacus, the Ding Dongs,
Yep.
the Hunchbacks. I can go through 15 minutes of folly of his. And you think, how could that happen? It's wrestling. Can't be that hard.
But I think they'll be in for a rude awakening once they realize it is that hard.
But history repeats itself, JP.
I feel like, I don't know, they're going to buy it. They're going to need Triple H, I feel. Or Vince, I guess, if you want to have Vince.
I think Triple H is the most valuable piece of property right now. But they're going to let him do, when they pay $7 billion and they want to do something, is he going to have the power to say no?
It's going to be an interesting debate there because he
No,
probably
there's
won't.
no debate. There's
He
no
probably
debate.
won't. Yeah.
There's no debate. You know why?
They pay for it.
His name's not on the check.
It's going to be weird of having checks from WWE without Vince's name on it, too. That'll be weird.
Yeah, but nothing lasts forever. So,
do you think that he wants to kind of go out his way? Like go out on top? Like, hey, I bought it for $1 million or whatever off my dad. I'm gonna end up selling it for $6 billion, like the profit, and not really care about the kids and the kids taking over and it being a family business? Do you think he has an ego where it's just that he needs to come out on top?
What do you mean, the kids?
Like he's not going to pass it along to the kids.
10 generations of McMahons from now are going to be okay. I mean, they can't piss through that money in 10 generations.
Right. It's going to be a ton.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton. I mean, they're going to go to the bank with truckloads of money. It was his. It was his hard work. Yeah, maybe he should leave it to him, but it was his. It's up to him to do what he wants to do. He created it. I mean, I don't think people out there understand what we're talking about. The Cowboys, the Yankees, maybe, and I don't think the Washington Commanders are worth $6 billion.
No.
He's next to the Yankees, the most desired sports franchise in the world. And he did it from 1983. Wasn't around for 100 years when they were the Highlanders. You know what I mean? Think about that. It was his hard work. Yeah, a lot of people worked hard, but it was him. He never took a day off.
But his dad gave it to him. You don't think he should give it to his kids? Well, sold it to him.
He
You don't
sold
think?
it to him.
Yeah.
Different.
I guess the kids would never be able to afford to sell, to buy it from Vince.
No, they wouldn't. So why not take all the money and run? And maybe he wants them to have more of a normal life than he did.
Definitely possible. It's just crazy to think that, first of all, that's worth $6 billion or over $6 billion. But it's crazy to think of a world wrestling entertainment without Vince McMahon at the helm. I mean, it's just insane to think about it.
Not really.
Why not?
Because everything changes. Everything changes. It's funny you said that. I was thinking the other day. I heard old interview from Piper where he was saying he worked for 30. It was Terry Funk, 32 territories. Well, during that time, they never thought that would go away. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever.
See, I was born in the early '80s, so I only know Vince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all you can relate to. But nothing does last forever. I mean, Joe Namath was the Tom Brady of his day, and then it became, the Joe Montana. Now Patrick Mahomes taking Brady's place. So nothing lasts forever. So maybe he just wants to close out the chapter that 4 generations of McMahons over 100 years ran wrestling.
All right, so let's talk about the topic at hand, WCW style. WCW Monday Nitro, the first ever Monday Nitro. September 4th, 1995 edition of Nitro was held at the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, first episode of Nitro. This was kind of an attempt to overtake, which we'll get into, maybe the WWF product, which was led by Vince McMahon and was Monday Night Raw at the time. The initial version of Nitro, of course, was live, 1 hour show. Bobby the Brain Heenan, Eric Bischoff, and Steve Mongo McMichael are doing the commentary. And of course, the first rating was unopposed, so they win the first week, a 2.5 rating. Raw, of course, had the Westminster Dog Show going on. So let's just first find out why Nitro, how did it happen, and was it all Bischoff, Ted Turner, or what was the deal behind setting up Monday Nitro?
It was Hogan's idea. He went to Eric, who then they went to Ted and said, if we're going to compete, we got to go head to head.
Wow. What made Hogan want to do that or say that? I mean, kind of bold.
I think that he saw that he could defeat Vince. You know, he left because they weren't getting along, but he also saw some indications that Vince, was going through a slump.
Big slump. Yeah, they were not rocking and rolling in those years. Those new generation years were not rocking and rolling.
No.
And it seemed like with Hogan and Vince, a little bit of personal issue there, like a little bit of professional rivalry.
Oh yeah, it's like anything else. It's the teacher and the pupil. It's the classic. Everything could be almost becomes biblical sometimes. Uh, yeah, it's the teacher and the pupil. The two brothers at war. It's whatever you want it to be. It is, and Hogan thought he could beat Vince.
When you look at it, would Vince have been Vince without Hogan to begin with?
Well, it's just like this. Would Hogan been Hogan without Vince? They're interchangeable parts. You know what I mean? It just was so. It was like lightning was caught in a bottle. Think about this. They had 3 shows a night, every day of the week, selling out, and sometimes 4. Think about that. And the people were rabid. I mean, when, the early years, I mean, Hogan crossed over with T on Saturday Night Live when Saturday Night Live was Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There was only 3 channels back then. Think about that. I mean, it was so hot. I mean, now there's hardly any house shows, right?
Lot less. Yep.
Well, they're running more in one night than they do all week. If they were running 4 nights and nights, right?
Yeah. Crazy. Think that. Yeah.
They only run Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Pretty
Thursday.
much nowadays. Yep.
Think about that.
It's insane. Like to think how popular it used to be, and how many eyeballs used to be on. How many people used to go to those shows? It's nuts.
JP, Monday night at the Garden, there'd be 22,000 people. Down in Providence, Rhode Island, there'd be 15,000 people. Down over in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, there'd be 6,000 people. And in Bangor, Maine, to be 11,000 people on a Monday night. Think about that. Crazy.
And I was talking to Greg Gonnan not that long ago. He says that Vince wouldn't have been Vince without Hogan. But it's interesting. A lot of people do say, well, would Hogan have been Hogan without Vince? But those two kind of go hand in hand when you're talking about, the ascension of the WWF and the Hogan era and the golden era of wrestling for them.
Yeah, I mean, they both helped each other tremendously. And I got to give Hogan credit. He worked as hard as Vince did. We just talk about how Vince worked hard. Hogan worked hard too, getting TV shows, being on TV, meeting uh, managers of television stations, going to malls to publicize his stuff. I mean, he worked hard too. So I don't agree with Greg Gagne on that one. I don't think there would have been Vince McMahon without Hogan.
So, as far as the Nitro is concerned, it's going to be on TNT. Was that a strategic thing? Did Brad Siegel want it on there? Did Ted Turner? Why TNT, not TBS?
That's a good question. That would be the call from the company itself. Maybe Ted wanted to. He had a little bit more. He was hands on then, so maybe he wanted to give TNT a little bit of a boost. That's my summation of that.
Because Nitro was a part of their branding, if you will. It was like they were called like Saturday Nitro, which would be like maybe a football game or whatever. I mean, not necessarily that, but they did have football obviously too on TNT.
Right.
But that was like a part of Brad Siegel's I guess brand recognition or like stuff he would call things like Nitro and so that the name comes from Siegel. But I was always curious if like if Ted wanted it on TNT or if Bischoff or but I guess it's more of a corporate call, right?
Yeah, it's more of a corporate call.
So Ted Bischoff always says like he meets with Ted, hey, what do you need to do? And he's like, oh well, we should go head to head. It's Bischoff, like you said, Bischoff and Hogan were kind of talking, and Ted's like, well, I want to beat Vince, and I'm in the wrestling business, the old infamous, I'm in the wrestling business, and Vince is like, well, that's nice, pal, I'm in the sports entertainment business. So
Right.
like that obviously bothered Ted, and he wanted to go head to head, and he wanted to compete with Vince. So he says, I want to go one on one with him. Is there any sort of Ted integration with the show? Like, is he involved with you or Bischoff, or is just like
No,
here's Nitro and that's it?
here's Nitro. That's it.
So I mean, he wants to be Vince, but he's not like hell bent on like I got to be involved.
No, no.
Is he just that kind of guy, or is it just he knew that's out of his realm? He's not a wrestling guy.
Let me
Wrestling.
let me put it this way, JP. You probably don't remember this. You remember when Ted managed the Braves?
Own the Braves or manage the Braves?
Managed them.
No, I don't remember that.
He managed for one day. He knew he was out of his element.
Okay.
He was smart enough not to try anything like that again.
Interesting. Because if if you go by Vince McMahon, oh Ted was hell bent. It was all Ted. Ted's obsessed with me. Ted wanted to beat me, pal. Like that kind of stuff you hear from Vince. So that none of that's really true. It's just Ted was
Well,
like, all right, here you go.
yeah, I think he wanted to beat him, but he didn't want to spend the time. I mean, he had other ventures he was doing. Vince was wrestling. Ted was all around the world. He had just given $1 billion to the UN. Do you remember that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
He was buying property in Montana, right? It's
Yep.
not the largest buffalo herd in North America. He was doing other things too. He's married to Jane Fonda. They were doing things in Africa. So, I always thought he was going to run for president
Really? Why'd you think that?
because he was very outspoken. And I think he would have ran for president if he didn't marry Jane Fonda.
Interesting.
He was a big donor in the Democratic campaign. He was super liberal, for a Southerner, especially for a Southerner. And he didn't mind. He didn't hide from his mistakes.
Did you ever have like one-on-one conversation with him, or not really?
Yeah, I had one time when he was dating Lamar Hunt's daughter. You know, the guy that owns the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
And they had just, you know, what they did, right? They cornered the silver market and drove up prices.
Mm.
I think they did. If they didn't do time, they ended up having to pay a lot of money. But he had a penthouse on the roof of the CNN Center. And I got in one day to come. I was there early. I was going down to get a coffee. You know what I mean? It was early, about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And so as I got on, there was a elevator coming from the penthouse. He was on there, and he said he was wrestling with her in the elevator. And he said, he knew I was scamming. He said, when are we going to have a pay-per-view? I said, we did 2 weeks ago. He said, how we do? I said, I think you made $1 million. Oh, good. Let me know next time again. So he wanted to win, but he had other things to pay attention to.
Oh yeah, that's great though. He knows who you are though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah.
Is there any sort of relationship with Bischoff and Turner, or not really?
Oh, I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was a very close relationship. I mean, you know, Eric and Hogan, you know, were sort of joined at the hip there. And, you know, I'm sure Ted was impressed that Eric got Hogan.
Definitely, and obviously Ted loves Hulk. He gave him a nice little contract, nice deal.
Yeah, big time contract. Yeah.
So when you look at Nitro when it first starts, like what does Eric say to you, like about it? Like, hey, we got an hour TV slot on TNT on Mondays. We're going head to head with Raw. Like, what does he say?
Him and Hogan came to me and they said, we're going to go head to head. Do you think we can do it? I said, absolutely, we can do it. You know, we're just going to sell motorcycles and they sell Buicks. So it wasn't hard to understand that was the way to get to Vince.
Did you like that idea though of going head to head, or you rather like
Absolutely,
you
absolutely,
too?
yeah.
Why?
Because I knew we could beat them. I've been seeing their product, haven't you?
Yeah, it was awful at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I knew there was no way you could lose. We beat them the first quarter hour, and then from then on, you know,
big.
people always think, "Oh, it was the NWO." Yeah, it was the NWO that exploded us, but we were beating them constantly,
Yeah,
regularly.
early on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. When you look at it though, did you think he split the audience, or did you not? Did you think no, that's
No,
not going to happen?
I thought that people would tune us in and tune them out.
If you look at it though, Bischoff inexperience, McMahon has all the experience in the world. They got the advantage. They've been around longer. Did you think like, oh man, we've gotten into something here, or you were that confident in
I was
WCW?
that confident. I mean, we're a much better product, much better. I mean, much, much better. We were still a wrestling product.
So when Bischoff comes to you and Hogan, and like, what's the game plan as far as what you want to do with Nitro?
Expose the young guys and guys that were hungry, and then put Hogan and his band on top.
Did you think that's a good like long term thing or short term, or hey, well let's go for the gusto and get some ratings right to go ahead? Like what was the thought process?
You got to win right away, JP. You got to win right away. And what are you going to do? Put the young guys on top when you're paying Hogan that exorbitant amount of money?
And they're not going to get the eyeballs yet because they're young guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't know who they are. Oh, they're great in Japan, and the dirt sheets love them, but the average person doesn't know who they are. They got to be exposed and given time for the people to see them work.
So what is the game plan as far as like you only have 1 hour of TV? Like, does that make it easier for a booker or harder? Because you only have an hour now.
To me, the perfect time would be 90 minutes. But you got to go with the parameters what they give you.
Why do you think 90? Like, why is that such a perfect time?
It's just long enough to get everybody you need in, and you still leave them want more.
So maybe 2 hours, it might be a little bit too long, 1 hour too short,
Let me ask
90 is
you
perfect.
something else. Let me ask you something.
Hmm.
Maybe any television program you watch on network TV that's 2 hours long.
Hmm. That's true. Maybe a special episode of Yellowstone, but that's not every week. Yeah.
It's too
Usually,
long.
usually they're about an hour.
And if you've noticed how in the last, I think it's 8 years, I read the report how movies have lost 14 minutes of time.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. The average movie has lost 14 minutes.
Is that attention span thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They should have told Avatar because I heard Avatar's like 3 hours and 30 minutes, but I heard they could have cut out half of it. But James Cameron's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, and how many does he put out? One every 10 years.
Yep.
So he makes a to do about it. But I mean, does anybody have 2 hours attention span anymore? The phone has killed us.
Yeah. Yep.
The phone has absolutely killed us. I mean, I was walking to get some food the other day. It was night, and I was in a kind of a secluded area, and two people come to me, and I said, I couldn't see them, but I could see their silhouette. They're walking in darkness, reading their phone. They're lucky they didn't trip. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how intense we are with the phone now. And I
Yep.
think it does kind of, when you start to read a story, do you ever go all the way through the story on your phone on news?
Usually skim,
Yeah,
skim, skim, skim. Yeah.
yeah. So that's where I'm getting in. 3 hours is the hardest of all.
That's just an eternity. Raw every week, 3 hours is impossible to watch. I don't know how people do it. I literally, like, I always put on Monday Night Football when football season's on, but I mean, I don't know how they do it during, oh my God, during the year. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So Monday Nitro is there. You obviously got together with Bischoff, get together with Hogan. What is the game plan as far as like the set? I mean, do you guys obviously going live is going to be different because they always tape their Monday Night Raw. So you guys want to go live. As far as the set and everything, is that all Bischoff or do you have any say in that?
I don't think I had no say. Eric might have had some say in it, but I think that was all the production people.
Like Craig Leathers, Neil
Oh,
Pruitt, or like,
is above them.
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I always just remembered like the set was awesome and it was cool but it was huge. So I mean, it's like wow. I mean that's got to cost a pretty penny to now like WWE now. I mean that thing is gigantic. Like it got to cost a pretty penny to travel with a huge set like that, like the huge WCW letters, the big entranceway. I mean, it's got to cost a pretty penny to create that set for the production crew.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's your stamp, right? You want
Hmm.
people to understand. I mean, from what I gather, WWE has 18, uh, 18 wheelers that take that stuff.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
So Raw is usually, I mean, they sometimes they'll be live, but then they'll tape as well. They're in a smaller venue. It doesn't look as good. Nitro usually, especially here in Mall of America, looks like in like this gigantic venue. It looks nice. It looks cool. Like when you're like creating Nitro and doing that, Bischoff always said like he literally had a pen and a pad and he would write it down. what they did and what you guys are going to do. He wanted it to be so much different, and usually the difference was better. Like going live, you're right, your set was better. The production at that point was actually better than theirs. Theirs kind of looked passe and old, and theirs came off a little bit lame. Nitro came off like, wow, what the hell is this? This is cool.
Yeah, yeah, we sure did.
And
Yeah,
even the opening entrance video was great with the fire and going through the streets and like the dinosaur noises and everything. It was just an awesome entrance, like a whatever intro video to the show. So
yeah,
I just thought that was a lot better, a lot different too.
it was.
So who selects Mall of America? Is Zane here at this point, Zane
Yes,
Breslov, or is that so? It's Zane and Eric that pick Mall of America.
yeah, yeah.
Why Mall of America?
Uh, Zane thought it would look good. Eric thought it would look good.
It's not a traditional wrestling venue, though.
Yeah,
Does
and I
that
think that's one of the reasons why they did it.
does that matter though? Does it is like does it need to be a traditional wrestling venue
Well,
necessarily?
obviously it didn't. Obviously it didn't.
Well, I mean, to you though, should it have been?
Yeah, to me it should have been.
So you kind of, obviously you're on board, so to speak, but you don't really like the idea of the Mall of
No,
America
it
per se.
wasn't that I didn't like it, but I would have liked to have been in a building I knew, but it obviously worked. So was that I didn't know everything. That made me kind of look back and said, you know, every department needs to do what they do best, and showed me that Zane knew what he was doing.
Would you be able to tell how many people were there attendance wise? Because you can't really get a good figure or an accurate number when you look at the attendance to the show because there's so many thousands upon thousands of people in the mall.
No, you can't. You can't. There's no way. Because everybody's moving. Do you know what I mean? Even if they stop, they're moving. It's a sea of people.
And our buddy Larry, who used to live in Minnesota, was saying that that mall is huge. It's like tens of thousands of people can actually, not that we're at Nitro, but can actually fit in that mall. That's how big the mall is. It's like it's disgustingly big.
So big, they have an inside roller coaster. Think about that.
It's insane. Yep.
Yeah.
I got a mall by me, the American Dream Mall, which isn't as big as that mall, but it is huge. Like you get tired walking around that place. There's 3 floors. They have roller coasters and stuff in there too. They
Yeah.
have a huge Ferris
I've
wheel.
run by it. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you've seen. Yeah, that's huge. By a giant, right across the street from Giant Stadium.
Right, right.
Man, just think about it. It's like, wow, Mall of America. Is it also like the branding? Like, hey, WCW is, America. We're America's wrestling company. You know what I mean? Is that also part of it?
If it was, it went over my head.
I don't know. To me, it's like Mall of America, WCW Nitro. Just like I don't know the connotation of like, hey, we're branding here with the Mall of America. It's to me, I don't know. I guess that's always Bischoff's thing. He likes branding with certain
Okay,
things.
so
Like
then we're in Little Rock, Arkansas, or Selma, Alabama. What are we branding?
the Southern folk. WCW loves the Southern folks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So is it just supposed to look grand and grandiose? Like, hey, we're in
Yeah.
the Mall of America.
Yeah. That's it. It was. And going back there, they knew Hogan was over in Minneapolis. You know, he was over everywhere, but Minneapolis, he was especially over. He was over especially everywhere, but because of what you know happened in Minnesota.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, maybe wrong with the actual correlation, but didn't Pasta Mania, Hulk Hogan's, didn't open either that same month or that same week, or wasn't it
No,
very close to when his Pasta Mania store was going in there?
his Passamania still had been in there for a while. I think 6 months.
Okay, so kind of a correlation. So there's
Yeah.
he's got business there. You know what I mean? Like he's got a good connection there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Pasta Mania definitely had a little bit something to do with Nitro running there.
Very little, if anything. I mean, it was a very small place. It was just to go orders. You know what I mean?
What did you think of it? Do you think it was good food?
It was pasta. You know, plain pasta. You know,
With somebody famous's name on it. Yeah.
that's all.
Did you tell Hulk, like, come on, Hulk, Pasta Mania? I don't know about this.
No, no. I mean, I think he was bright that he wanted to get into other things. Just because I was a big fan of it, but you know, I'm, I've been eating really good Italian food my whole life.
Yep.
So there's a difference.
Is the George Foreman grill story true that it could have been Hulk Hogan's grill?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I've heard that story too. I don't know.
So as far as the actual Nitro, we're at the Mall of America. It does a good rating. The Westminster Dog Show is going on. Was that purposely on that day because you guys knew it was going to be unopposed, the first
Yeah,
Nitro?
yeah, yeah.
That your idea or Eric's idea?
Eric's.
When you look at it, Westminster Dog Show, it's kind of embarrassing to get your program bumped from a dog show.
To me, no.
Why not?
It's the most prestigious dog show in the world. Do you know how much money is spent on dogs in the United States a year?
No clue, but I would imagine it's probably a decent amount.
It's more than baby food.
Holy moly. Jesus. Wow. I know my cat's food's pretty expensive, but man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, nuts. I
And,
always just was like, wow, they're not on this week as the Westminster Dog Show. I'm
and
like,
they
"Fuck."
had great ratings.
Really? I never looked into it or even
Yeah.
thought it would. Wow.
Yeah.
Better than Raw?
At the time, probably as good, if not better.
Crazy. So let's start off the card. It's only a few matches, obviously, because we're only 1 hour, but there was a dark match. The American males, Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Scotty Riggs, defeated Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater with Colonel Rob Parker. Just to get those guys out there, dark match, get the crowd going. That's basically it.
Yeah, you knew you were going to have a good match. You're going to have a great match.
I know you love the American males. Did you like that gimmick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't too 80s for you?
Well, you got to realize it's still, you know, wrestling is always behind. When I say that, look at how long Nazi villains were involved in the wrestling business. Look at how long Japanese heels were involved in the wrestling business. 25 years after the war. Think about that. Wrestling
Yep.
has always been behind.
Seems like it for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So they beat, like I mentioned, the American males defeated Bunkhouse Buck, Dick Slater, of course, the stud stable with Colonel Rob Parker. The first match ever in the history of Nitro is a good one. It's a doozy. Flying Brian Pillman defeats Jushin Thunder Liger. Match goes around 6 minutes or so. I mean, short match as far as the time, but good for a TV match. Great match. These two guys are awesome. Why did you decide to put Pillman and Liger on as the first thing that the fans would ever see on Nitro?
Because I knew I wasn't stone deaf to the internet. It might not have been the internet, but it was dirt sheets. And I knew Laga was over huge. And I knew Brian was going to be a rising star. So I knew I wanted to win in the first quarter. So I tapped into that.
Man, what a doozy. Obviously, those 2 years before in 1992 had some great matches too. So it's almost like, hey, we can go back to this well with two guys that have awesome chemistry and have a great match. And just an awesome, like, wrestling trivia tidbit too. It's like the first match ever in Nitro, Pillman, Liger, and it was damn good.
Yeah.
So then we have the next match up, which is a great one too. And it's funny because it's the last ever match in the history of Nitro, and it's a part of the first ever Nitro. Sting versus Ric Flair for the United States Championship. The match goes to a no contest around the 9 minute mark, obviously, which would continue the feud between Sting and Ric Flair. And obviously, not that long after that, Pillman, Arn Anderson are going to be involved, and then Flair's going to turn on Sting at Havoc. But that goes kind of in the long lineage of first Clash of the Champions, first Nitro, last Nitro, Sting versus Flair. Two great TV draws. Almost too easy, right? You got to book Sting versus Flair on a historic
Absolutely.
show.
Absolutely. Anytime you want a number, you just put those names down.
1988, first Clash. 1995, first Nitro. 2001, last Nitro. Sting Flair, part of it all.
Yep.
Interesting part, though, of that, Lex Luger re-debuts for WCW and comes out and shocks the world. And, Mongo Michael and obviously Bischoff and Heenan are shocked. Everybody's shocked. Was that a part of the plan? Like, okay, surprises. We got to have a surprise guy. The guy literally over the weekend
Yep.
was just in WWF. Now his contract was up and he shows up WCW. No one in WWF even knew his contract was up except maybe Bruce Pritchard, and he wasn't even aware, of it to that magnitude. So the guy literally snuck out one door and opened the other. Was that a big part of the plan? A huge
That was
surprise for
Eric's
Lex
plan.
Luger.
That was Eric's plan. Yep.
What did you think about it? I mean, that's just, to me, floored me. I'm like, holy shit, he was just in WWF.
Thought it was a good move.
Did you trust Luger at this point? Because, bad reputation. Is he
Oh,
still the same Luger?
I never had problems with Luger. I mean, I was there when he first started in Florida. So I got along with Lex.
Eric has always said he actually lowballed him on this offer, and that Sting pushed for Lex to sign, and obviously Sting pushed Bischoff to sign Lex. But he said he lowballed him on the offer, and Luger said yes, and he was a model citizen after that.
Yeah. He was. I never had any problems with Lex Luger.
So that was awesome. Just as far as like, holy shit, anything could happen on Nitro. The guy literally was in WWF 2 days ago, and now he's on Nitro. He's on WWTV. That was a big part of the appeal of why I like Nitro too. It's like, holy shit, anybody could show up. Anything could happen at any moment. This is this is great, and it's live. So this is great.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Is that a little bit of your booking philosophy, or is that mostly Bischoff, like the surprises and keeping everybody on the, tips of their toes?
I couldn't bring guys in and sign them, so this was Eric's baby. Yeah.
What did you think about just Luger? Did you think he'd have, because WWF didn't book him well? Did you think he'd have like great, like, wow, I can't believe Luger's here? Did you think he'd have that impact?
I thought he needed to be pumped back up again. You got a Lex Express. He's in a bus all over the country with his name on it. You go to a battleship and he slams Yokozuna, and then he doesn't win the title. He was dead. He was dead.
Awful. Terrible. Yep,
He was
I agree.
dead. He was dead. He didn't mean shit.
So then the main event of the evening, Hulk Hogan, the WCW World Champion, defeated Big Bubba Rogers to retain his WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The match went about 7 minutes. Got to have Hogan, right? And a name value, obviously, with Big Bossman, a.k.a. Big Bubba Rogers. Got to have Hogan on the first show, right? Defending the title.
Wait a minute. You go to Ted Turner.
Mm-hmm.
He just signed Hulk with all this money. You're not going to have him on the main event? Are you saying to me you're thinking maybe you don't need him on the main event?
No, I'm saying he's got to be on the first show. Yeah, definitely.
Not just because he's Hulk Hogan. The guy just opened up the largest payday for anybody. And to even think that you're not going to, or even have that thought run through your mind, you got to go beat yourself in the head with a wooden mallet for a while.
Oh, Hulk, he's got to be. Yeah, he's got to be the man. He's the man. Yeah.
That's why they paid for him.
So then, after he beats Big Bubba Rogers, a pretty good match there. Not as good as Sting Flair or Pillman Liger, of course, but it is what it is. And Luger actually reappears, comes out, kind of chases away some guys, and Luger and Hogan have a little confrontation, and they have a little promo battle back and forth. So not only is Luger back, and he showed up during the Sting match, and you see him in the crowd, he actually comes into the ring, and he says that he's in WCW where the big boys play. He wants the title, and he wants the biggest boy of them all. He wants Hulk Hogan. So not only you literally have managed to reinfuse Lex Luger like that in a heartbeat. Luger's back and he's in the main event. You know what I mean? I mean, it just felt like, holy shit, Luger's back.
Well, you could do that if you have a Hulk Hogan.
Was that your idea to put him in the main event, or was that Bischoff?
I think Hogan, me, and Eric sat down. I think, and I think that was mostly Hogan's idea. Because here's a guy that's coming over from WWF, and we're going to get every last bit of juice out of them from him that night. Yeah, I think so.
It was great because it was like, all right, what the hell's going on with Luger? He's is he a babyface? Is he a heel? But he obviously seems like he wants to cut the line. He wants the title shot. Sting is out there kind of trying to separate Hulk and Luger, but Luger gets in his face. He cuts the promo, and Hogan is ready to oblige, and Hogan accepts his challenge. But it was just so cool that it was like, holy shit, you just got another main event there. Lickety split just like that, and he just came over from WWF cold, basically. You know what I mean? He wasn't hot.
Right, right. And doing that live, you could do that.
Pretty to me, pretty amazing as far as the first Nitro. I loved it. I thought it was great, and it to me was way better than Raw. What did you think? Thumbs up on it?
Oh, yeah, without question. I mean, the first match won the night.
Absolutely. And it's not going to hurt having Sting and Flair out there. And then obviously
Yeah.
Hogan is the biggest driver in the history of the business. Doesn't hurt having him in your pocket, and then having a surprise guy like Luger, who was WCW royalty before WWF kind of didn't know how to book him. Him coming back, reassert himself. He's back in the main event. He's Luger again, and he's hot this time. He after being cold a week ago or 2 days ago, he's hot again because he's confronting Hogan and bad mouthing him and putting his finger in his face.
Right, right.
So you definitely give 2 thumbs up to the first Nitro.
More than 2 thumbs up. 2 big piggies up too.
All right, let's hit the plugs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. You can follow Kevin on Instagram at Taskmaster Talks. Check out the website tmptempire.com. Kevin, what else you got going on? Anything good?
I'm going to be in St. Louis tomorrow for Herb Simmons. Come and see me and talk to me about that you love John Rye show. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for little Taskmaster Talks with Kevin Sullivan. We'll see you next week, folks.